And so I really love, like I said, I think I love the honesty and the ease of the conversations, because you're not trying, to be the next Oprah. You're just having an organic conversation that is, easy to digest and watch when you're watching it online.
No, well, thanks for that.
You've had it.
Yeah.
That's all you.
So I guess.
But beyond that, why do you do this? Like, why is this a why do you want to have these conversations, and why in particular are you so excited to share these conversations with so many people?
Sure. Okay.
So what I really appreciate about the show is the ease in which we have the conversations and the nature of the conversations, because they're very rooted and grounded in real life experiences.
Yeah.
As a single person, and even though I'm not a woman, I did really sort of connect with the conversation around, single men and sex and owning sexuality.
We've had 4 successful seasons, and each season we try and up the game and do better. There's always room for improvement. So any specific topics or any guests that you'd like to see featured on season 5?
I think maybe just an idea that you could go into would be to consider
yet another episode on Hot Seat with Penzola. And guys, I'm so excited. This is the season finale of season 4. I can't believe we've had 4 successful seasons. It's been a great journey, lots of learnings, and lots of fun as well. So today I am thrilled to have a dedicated viewer on Hot Seat today. And I mean, he's a subscriber, he watches our show, and I just decided, you know what? Let me get some feedback from my peeps, and Afika, I welcome you to my show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Listen,
to be here.
All right, I'm so grateful. I'm very excited to have you share your thoughts on the show.
Sure.
And what specific episodes from season 4 resonated with you and the most, and maybe why, because we do a lot of topics. We tackle a lot of topics on the show, and they are not all for everyone.
Sure.
Right? So. And that's why you'd find different views on the different topics, because it's people choose what they want to watch. But I really try and talk about topical issues at the time, and mostly stuff that people don't want to tackle.
Sure.
And I must share with you, one of the biggest challenge of Hot Seat is I struggle to find guests to speak to. I have lots of topics I want to cover, but people would rather send me a voice note than sit on video and
Sure.
share their thoughts.
Sure.
And that then tells me that we still have a society that's very shy in talking about things.
Sure.
Which is why we exist.
Absolutely.
And I'm hoping to get to a point where people can come here and just share their stuff
But I
and be
think the
comfortable.
point you're making is it canvases 2 things. Firstly, that I think that there's still.
Okay, but wait, was it your voice right?
I just
was
want to clarify.
Was it a rough night or
I just want to
what?
clarify that in the picture of health.
Okay.
I am well. I have been indoors all week, and this is just my natural voice.
Is this
every
just
day.
your natural
This
voice?
is my everyday. Yeah.
Oh my Lord.
You either think I'm sick or a lady, but this is where we're at. This is
No,
what
but,
I've
but
got. This is what
I'm
I'm
more
working
thinking Babalazed.
with. No.
Okay, that's fine.
Picture
Cool.
of health.
Back to the reason
But
you're
to your
here.
point, I think it speaks to 2 issues. Firstly, that people are still incredibly shy about speaking about these issues. Firstly, even as a group of friends, but I think especially when you know that the conversation that you're having is going to be canvassed on a large platform.
Correct.
For
everyone
to see.
Yes.
But I think secondly that there's a power in anonymity. Like there's a power in not being known and not being seen. And so I think you can see that in things like trolls, for example, because no one knows who you are. You know that there's no backlash for any comment you make. That it either creates a space in which that if no one can see me, then I can say anything I want to say. But I think there's shows like this or these kind of platforms are really cool and really great for allowing organic, real conversations to be happening in real life. Yeah.
That you raise a very interesting point. I mean, I think I was always seeing it as a negative thing, the whole thing of not being comfortable to say. But I get what you're saying.
Sure.
There's that power in in being anonymous, because literally you can say anything and it can't be linked back to you.
Absolutely,
So that's absolutely true. But let's talk about how how has the show influenced your perspective on societal norms, like in authentic conversations? You just said
Sure.
now the show allows organic conversation. Has there been any changes in your life in watching one or 2 of the episodes that you've resonated with?
So I think it's interesting because watching the show firstly, I think there was a moment where I realized the age gap between some of the other guests that have been on the show and myself is not extensive, but there is an age gap. And it was really interesting watching that particular sort of generation or group of people try to unpack or interact with issues that I think as a millennial, I would easily, be able to have that conversation. And there was one particular one where you were talking to the first group of men that you had on the show.
Yes, yeah.
And the conversation became about mental health.
Yeah.
And the fact that a lot of them don't want to discuss it because you don't want to look weak in front of your friends, or you don't want people to have, one up on you.
Yeah.
Whereas I was just like, that's insane, because I am very open about my mental health challenges, and I think that I've been blessed with the same kind of group who is very open about that. Being mentally unwell or having mental health challenges doesn't necessarily make you weak. So I thought it was like a really, I thought it was impressive and really good that generation is having the conversation, or at least starting to unpack that conversation. But 9-10 years later, it's so much easier.
It will probably
to
not
have the
be a
conversation
thing,
without
right?
any stigma.
Yeah,
You don't fear that someone knowing that you suffer with depression or you're a bit anxious. That's not a weakness. That doesn't really define you as a person.
Yeah.
So I thought it was really interesting watching, and especially with men.
Correct.
Grapple with that issue, not want to discuss it. I think, but also that it clicked something in my head that as a queer man, the spaces in which we are in and the spaces which we inhabit allow for uncomfortable or non-conventional conversations to happen. So I'm so grateful that lots of men are genuinely trying to work on their mental health and shift the stigmas around that particular conversation.
Yeah. It's interesting that you actually mentioned that, because it does. I'm not sure if it's linked to generation, but for me, in my experience, where even when I have conversations with ladies, they're quite comfortable in engaging around mental health. For me it seemed more to be about men, but I think you're raising another issue of perhaps generation-wise we might find ourselves evolving and getting to a point where it's a norm, it's a thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, are there any questions that I know I've got a lot of questions to ask you, because you are that dedicated viewer, and
Absolutely.
you can sort of share with me what you would like to see in season 5, especially from a generational point of view, right? Because whilst you try and have these hot topics, they speak to different people. So I really would like to hear your opinion on that. But I mean, before I move on with further questions, do you have a question for Penzola?
Absolutely, I do. I think the first reason, a lot of people create podcasts or conversational sort of like material content for a variety of reasons, but I know that you want to push the boundary with having the conversations that society is not completely comfortable with. But beyond that, why do you do this? Like, why is this a why do you want to have these conversations, and why in particular are you so excited to share these conversations with so many people?
Sure. That is a question I get to answer all the time, and I think it's just in me. I want to change the world. I mean, that's like pie in the sky there. But I strongly believe that shifting mindsets and changing the world is not about a big bang approach. It is about one conversation at a time, one story at a time. And I see that in corporate as well. So if I mentor a black girl and they grow in the corporate environment, they then mentor someone else, and then by doing that, by doing that, you're just like changing the world. And for me, conversation is one way of changing the world, and it's especially transformational conversations, which challenge the status quo. Like the one thing you're saying. It was interesting for you to watch a group of men say they don't want to talk about mental health, and you're thinking, why? So you already there, and as we evolve, there'll be other challenges, other boundaries as we need to be pushing and continue to push, and as I always say, that there's a whole movement around women, and whilst we want to believe that we've progressed in the transformation around women, there's still a lot of work to be done.
Absolutely.
Right? And it's very subtle, and for as long as we are not talking about it
Sure.
and transforming and looking and helping each other and move away from this thing of women don't support each other. You know, so I am a catalyst for that,
Sure.
that myth, because it's a myth.
Well, I'd love to see it.
Right, so
Love to see
so I
what
do
you
it
yeah.
because one, I love it. I love changing and seeing and mindset shifts, but I also I do it because I want to learn.
Sure.
I learn a lot from my guests. There's topics I choose that I want to do, where I'm not even sure what questions to ask, but I want to talk about the topic. You understand? And then by the end of each episode, you're like, wow, I didn't know that. You know? So there's also learning for me as well in the process. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so Afika, I mean, what do you think what has kept you, you know, glued to Hot Seat and as you know, as a dedicated subscriber and a viewer?
So you know what?
Clearly, we're doing something right.
I mean, there
somewhere.
is absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm a very intentional person about the content that I absorb or that I take in particular, and so I don't like to have anything that feels preachy towards me.
Okay.
So what I really appreciate about the show is the ease in which we have the conversations and the nature of the conversations, because they're very rooted and grounded in real life experiences.
Yeah.
As a single person, and even though I'm not a woman, I did really sort of connect with the conversation around, you know, single men and sex and owning sexuality, because
Correct.
you know, there's so many stereotypes about single people who then go out and pursue sex. But that conversation is something that I can relate
That
to.
you can
because it's
relate,
real.
yes,
It
yes.
applies to me in everyday life. All the conversations you have with couples about, you know, what it means to be a parent, and at the same time while trying to be a parent, how does that play into a role into how we then, you know, relate as a couple? What does that mean for us as a people who are together? And so I really love, like I said, I think I love the honesty and the ease of the conversations, because you're not trying, you know, to be the next Oprah. You're just having an organic conversation that is, you know, easy to digest and watch when you're watching it online.
No, well, thanks for that.
You've got it, girl.
Yeah.
That's all you.
So I guess
Sure.
then, you know, I mean, I would love to hear from you what you think we should be, you know, what should some suggestions for season 5, because, you know, we've had 4 successful seasons, and each season we try and up the game and do better. There's always room for improvement. So any specific topics or any guests that you'd like to see featured on season 5?
I think maybe just an idea that you could go into would be to consider, even, you know, keeping the nature of the topics exactly where it is. I think it might really be fruitful to have the perspective of potentially different generations. So like I said earlier,
Yeah.
it was interesting watching what people maybe 10 years older than me
Yeah.
are grappling with when we speak about certain ideas. So I think it'd be really interesting if you could have a selection of people, even on the same episode,
Yeah.
you know, sharing their perspective on an issue, because I think there's a shift in each generation, and so we have the conversation very differently, because I think you'll find that we are now armed with the rhetoric to be able to actually then like articulate what it is that we're feeling a lot differently from the previous generation. So I think, you know, that might also just draw different viewers, be like, oh, but this is actually different because there's so many different perspectives that I had not considered, you know. So I think going forward, that might be just, you know, just small
I
idea
love
that
that.
you can play with, you know.
It's smallanyana,
Just a little bit to it,
but
not too
high
much.
impact, galok.
But you know what I mean? I think the impact would be there, because
no, absolutely. I
different
think
voices, different generations have so much input to
absolutely.
share.
Okay, no, definitely. I definitely love that suggestion. And any specific topics?
So I haven't really heard much around. So we spoke about female sexuality, but I think we can have a greater conversation about sexuality as a whole, not just about orientation, but you know what it means now. What is sexuality in 2023? Because it's striking with one of your guests on the panel of men. We're having a conversation about what it means to be a man if your wife is earning more than you, and there was a moment he said, "But guys, it's 2023."
Hello.
And I was just like,
thank you.
thank you for bringing us and rooting us in now.
Right?
You know, the ideas that you have about relationships or concepts around masculinity and manhood are rooted in a time where females didn't play the role they play now. And we're not, you know, we're not working within the exact same binary that we're working in. You know, people are non-binary. There's different other types of groups of people that have a different experience of the world given, you know, who they are. So I think the idea of sexuality and having that kind of conversation would also be a really interesting topic to watch. Because I'm tiny indaba. So
No, ngiyakubona. That's why ungibukela.
you know, you got the tea, girl, you got the tea.
No, absolutely amazing suggestions, and I think I appreciate that. It really channels myself and obviously, you know, and my team
Sure.
to start now thinking about, you know, where hot
How
seat
you
needs to-
frame these
yeah, how we now
conversations.
frame those conversations, because, you know, as a dedicated viewer, I would still like to keep you on, and it's important for me to have you know, opinions, and I guess there's many of you out there that do support the show, and I really thank you so much, guys. It in the same way that you know, I've asked Afika if there are any suggestions on specific topics and that you would like to see in season 5. Absolutely would love to see those comments, so that we can continue shaping the show to serve the purpose of what it's meant to be. Okay, look, I think you and I can talk about hot seat the whole day, because it's my passion, it's my life. That's what I like doing. Of course we should.
Hey,
But,
we should be talking about hot seat. Like,
exactly.
Let's all be talking about it.
You know what I mean? So, but I really want to Vala and Goku.
Sure.
And thank you again for being my number one sharing what and viewer, and really you've been sharing my content. I see it, I see you, and thanks for the support. Really hope to see you glued to that screen again in season 5. Your suggestions have been noted, comrades.
Of when to not incubate.
Exactly.
I stay ready.
So guys, while we are having so much fun in studio with Afika as a viewer of Hot Seat with Penzola, thank you so much. It is the season finale. We are going to see you in season 5, and really hopefully we've had some great topics for you. Like I said, like, subscribe, comment, and yeah, it's been a real thing. We're out of here. See ya. Cheers. Alala. It doesn't sound right, ne?
Don't cut, but yeah.
It didn't sound right, ne?
No.
Yeah.
There's
I felt it, and I think he's already answered this question.
there's a no, but also in the way that you're asking it, it's coming through that you're trying to figure out the question because there's too many and
Because I'm reading it.
yeah. Can you also hear it?
Yeah, I'm reading it. Yeah.
I'm sweating, so is that showing on camera?
No.
As a single man.
You are dramatic.
We've got makeup.
Oh, you've got a post.
No, guys, my skin is makeup free, and that's right. Look at this.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm good. I'm not profusely sweating, so I should look at me.
Okay, so
I like the energy, so
yeah, so say vala man.
tell me about that energy.
Mara ngivali, angithi ngisho ngiyayivala man.
Yeah,
Okay.
uyivale futhi wesithu ngale energy ya.
Oh, Dando. So repeat le yanto le.